Entrepreneurs Enigma is a podcast for the ups and downs of entrepreneurship, so the wins and the fails that we all face being entrepreneurs, and how we learn from adversity. Every week I talk to a different entrepreneur with a story to tell. I'm Seth Goldstein. Come with me on the journey. This is Entrepreneurs Enigma. Let's get started. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Entrepreneurs Enigma podcast. I'm, as always, your host, Seth. Today, I have a marketing legend. I mean, he's humble. He won't admit it, but he's a marketing legend. He coined the phrase H2H, which is human to human, which is a global movement that sets to humanize business through simpler communications, empathy, and celebrating our imperfections. Bryan Kramer is on the show today. He is a renowned business strategist, global keynote speaker, executive trainer, coach, two-time best-selling author, a Forbes contributor. He had a TED Talk, not TEDx Talk. He had a TED Talk where he was the first to allow mobile devices during the event to illustrate his belief that even a small inspirational share holds the power to change the world for the better. He's worked with companies all over the world, including MasterCard, L'Oreal Paris, NASA. The list goes on and on and on and on and on and on. He knows his stuff. Great guy. I read his books. I'm just thrilled to have him on. So let's bring Bryan in here. Hey, Bryan. How's it going?
It's going really well, Seth. Thank you. Thanks. You share the same first name as my brother, so it's always fun to meet another Seth.
It's common, but not that common. It's weird. It's kind of like you bump into him, you're like, wait, you're a Seth? But it's not like it's not. I mean, nothing wrong with Bryan, but Bryan, it's like Bryan. Everyone turns. That kind of. But that Bryan with a Y though, because that throws everybody off.
That's right. Yep, I have a battle with all my other Bryan friends. That
which one's better?
Bryan with the Y is the way to spell it.
It looks better with a Y, I think.
Thank you. I'm going to go with that.
It seems to work better. Bryan. It's a Y. It says Bryan, Y-N. Whatever. We digress. So you're calling in from Lisbon, Portugal.
I'm in Lisbon as of 3 weeks ago. Yeah,
it's exciting because you were out in Silicon Valley for a very long time.
My entire life since the day I was born.
Wow! This is a big change.
Yeah. So the only time I moved away was in college in Arizona.
That's not that far though.
Not too far. Not like
Lisbon.
No. So yeah.
So what made you move to Portugal? I mean, it seems like everyone's moving to Portugal. It's like a really cool place.
You would think they are. It feels that way, but really, the U.S. Or Americans are number 20 on the list of expats.
Wow.
So it's not as high as you would think. It's just there's a lot of desire, and there is a lot of people from the EU that's moving here for sure. And I've been
temperate climate, great great views, great old architecture, great food. What's it not to like?
Nothing not to like. The challenge has been the time zone change, but honestly, I've loved it. I just reversed my because a lot of my clients are Midwest and East Coast, so now I'm just ahead of them instead of behind them.
Well, that's kind of handy, actually. Come to think of it.
Yeah. Oh, it's so cool.
So you are the co-owner of Pure Matter, and drumroll, the CEO of H2H Companies, which is kind of like you might as well. I mean, if you have a great moniker like H2H, human to human, might as well use that in other places. So that's clever. So what is human to human? Like how did you come up with this?
Well, so we were talking about H2H before it kind of got more into the mainstream. I believe that H2H has been around since anybody can remember, as far as to the day they, any person listening to this has been in the H2H business in their entire life. Where it's been, where it's at, and where it's going are completely different things. Wow. Where it's been, when I first wrote the book. Before that, I was talking about it for 10 years when we had our agency, Pure Matter. And then one day when I was up on stage talking about it, it went viral. Everyone lifted their their phones and took pictures, and it got over 24 million impressions in 24
Oh,
hours.
that's all.
And so it just like sprung out of there. Right place, right time, but also worked on my personal brand to get there, to be able to have the platform. And I was honored and humbled that it was able to be heard at the right time. So before that, I was just talking to anybody that would listen, to a wall if I could, on why this was important. And really what H2H is like, go back to the dawn of, like, door-to-door salesman, the vacuum salesman, the guy that delivered milk, the people. And then now you look at fast forward, when social media came on the scene. It broke down all the geography barriers across the world, where we could have conversations anywhere with anyone, which now we consider to be table stakes because it's been around long enough, but it still is a challenge for companies to get down how to be H2H.
Oh my God, yeah.
And now moving forward, it's even more, it's become more relevant, as written up, in Fast Company and Inc. magazine as the term of the year in the last few years. And the reason is because of AI and virtual reality and augmented reality and all of the technologies, bots and automation, you name it. I mean, the list goes on. And now we're starting to discover that that the most important thing is being human, that being human is everyone's competitive advantage.
It is. It really is.
So that's what it's about.
I love it. And so you did a TED talk, not a TEDx talk, a TED talk. And you said there's like 3,000 or 30,000 hours of prep for it. Some insane number. I can't keep track of what it was. It
was not as high as 30,000, but it was 300 hours.
Oh, 300 hours, a little lower than 3,000. Still, that's a lot of hours.
Yeah, it was still a lot of hours, and it was the most intense work that I've ever done in my speaking, the speaking side of my career, and the rigorous amount of time that you put in to boil something down to less than 20 minutes is insane. And I just worked with this TED coach who was extraordinary, Juliet Blake, who also was the co-producer on the 50-foot journey with 50-foot journey with Oprah Winfrey and Steven Spielberg. And she was the president of the Jim Henson Muppets company, and had a lot of entertainment background. And so when she coached me, she brought a lot of that kind of acting and fulfillment of all that into the coaching. And that's where I just loved it. At the same time, it was rigorous. I mean,
I am sure
she was a relentless.
I'm sure she's more rigorous than a TEDx, because I mean, TEDx is still big, but like the TED one is like kind of like the creme of the creme. We're gonna take a quick break, hear from our sponsors, and get right back to the show. If you get on TED stage, it's like, oh my God.
Yeah, it was. They treated it, like it was, the most important thing in time wise that you do. And it's very, interestingly, it's very scripted, and I'm not a scripted person.
No.
I'm much more heart centered when I speak. I know what I'm going to generally say.
Your bullet points, but you go off your bullet points.
Like an actor. I'm not memorizing line by line. And TED is much more scripted. And so I had to learn a whole new style of understanding what I was going to say next, and how I was going to string it together so that it felt organic and natural.
Oh God, that sounds so intimidating. Oh my God. That sounds insane. I mean, but it's learning. It's now you have two kinds of speaking styles now. You have the TEDx kind of speaking style, and you have the Bryan Kramer speaking style. I'm sure you still prefer the Bryan Kramer speaking style, though.
Oh, totally. Every day. I bring in a lot of what I learned, but I'm still on the BK side of things. I'll give a heartfelt talk every day, any day. And know that that's going to be my better style of speaking. But the things, the tricks, the ways that I was taught to speak, to step on stage and to enter and to command and to create from one spot the red dot, and to project and to make the story arc, which is the most important thing. The story arc of what you're saying really makes sense to the person who's listening, so that you get that one idea that makes sense, and they walk away with that one thing that's going to make a difference. And that to me was just vital.
That's awesome. So have you been an entrepreneur your whole life, or has this been like, you got sick of corporate world and you're like, screw this, I'm going to go do my own thing.
Yep, I was the corporate. Now I was on the agency side my whole career.
Okay.
So I stepped my degrees in marketing communications,
Okay.
minor in Japanese, which I did absolutely nothing with.
But I'm sure it's fun to learn, and the culture and stuff is fun.
You know, if I immerse myself like I am here in Lisbon, I'm sure to come back. And being able to use some of what I learned in the Buddhist culture side of what I did was really fascinating. But anyway, yeah, I worked right out of school for my first agency. My entire career was spent on transformation, digital transformation.
Oh,
So I went from agency to agency to agency. Not that I spent time in each place, long periods of time, but my job was to transform the traditional model of agencies over to digital model of agencies.
That sounds like fun.
And I did that until I started a company within another company where they gave me a P&L and a whole budget and all this stuff. And we grew, we were 3 people and grew it to 78 people.
Wow.
And I had to learn a lot about building a business on someone else's dime. And it really,
that's kind of nice. That's kind of nice.
Really
being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, man, it helped me a lot. And so then after that, I met my girlfriend, then wife, or now wife. And she was a freelance designer running her own business. And she said, you know, Bryan, if you're doing all this for other companies, why don't you do it for yourself? And so we did. I exited that stage of my life and moved into starting Pure Matter in 2001, 2002. And then we grew it to about 30 people, $30 million, and worked with all kinds of great brands over the years and had a blast.
And working, and how is it working with your significant other?
Oh, it's brilliant.
Really? Are you just saying that, or to be safe?
No. We really have never, that I can think of, argued about work or the company or anything that we do together, because our roles are so significantly different. She is a creative at heart, and I'm the business side at heart, and the account management and finance. And
so it works out. You complement each other.
Yeah. Oh, very much so. So by having that delineation, it probably helps. And that's not to say that we haven't argued about who's picking up the kids, who's doing dinner, or any of that stuff. That is for sure.
That happens. That's a given. But well, because it's tough. I mean, like, my wife is my co-founder at my company.
Oh, wow.
And you know, we're the same thing. We don't argue. She does the book. She does all the analytical things that I can't figure out how to do. And I do everything else. And it's kind of worked out nicely. So it's the delineation. But sometimes I hear, oh my God, it's a trip. So it's a trip regardless, but sometimes it's a better trip than others. So what is the best thing about being an entrepreneur in your mind or even an intrapreneur? Like, what's the best thing about doing your own thing?
Shaping what was next. I love vision. Number one, leadership and vision is, to me, that I thrive on that feeds my soul. And being able to create vision, against what might or might not work, but still leading the way. I loved it. I love staying on top of new things, and I love creating collaborations with other people, other companies, other partnerships. And that goes into the second thing that I love, which is actually relationships. And you might call it sales, but I really believe in that. I really do embody H2H, and I really think that that creating relationships is, to me, it really helps me to vibrate at a different level when I know that I'm in congruence with another human being and we're creating something together. And so I can't feel that as much at companies where I don't have that sense of ownership as a leader of my own thing, where I can create that in any direction I want to go. At the drop of a pin, I could say, hey, I'm going to go in this direction. Tomorrow I could go in a different direction. That's entrepreneurship.
It is. So what keeps you up at night as an entrepreneur? I mean, there's also that part of entrepreneurship, is that it's scary as hell.
Yeah. Well, what keeps me up now versus what kept me up when I first started are way different. We're well past 3 companies now. And so I'm a lot more settled. And what I work on right now is totally different too. I mean, 6 years ago, I moved into executive coaching to take everything that I've done in building those companies to help others do the same thing, but without burning out.
Oh, yeah, that's key.
I burned out at a really high level. I was traveling 200 days a year. I got diabetes. I was morbidly obese. I had I was running the agency from the road in all that travel. I missed out on my kids' stuff. And one day I just came home and I was like, I told my wife, I said, I can't do this at this speed anymore. This is really ruining my life and ours. And so she agreed, and we exited everything over the course of 6 months. And
wow, that's fast.
And I took a year off, and I lost 85 pounds. I lost diabetes. I picked my kids up at school and dropped them off every day. I got back in touch with who I was. And then I realized that everything that I just did is worth something in gold to other people, and I could help them to do that without having to face that. So
burnout sucks.
That's what burnout is horrible.
Oh, it's the worst. I did that when I was a journalist for 6 years, and I was just like, oh, I burned out that massively. And it sucks, because then it takes me 6 years to get past the PTSD from that job. 6 years. Oh my gosh, it was insane. So
that's a long time.
It's a long time, and I mean, I didn't see any killings or anything like that, but I saw dead bodies every now and then, and it weighs on you. It weighs on you after a while. So, on a positive note, what is the most important thing to carry with you all the time?
The most positive thing that I carry with me all the time is just simply to do the next right thing.
Oh, I love that.
That's all. That's everything that I need to know right in that one statement. As long as I just do the next right thing, I'm going to be good. If my mind starts to go in 5,000 different directions, which is entrepreneurship in a lot of ways, or I start to worry, or I start to think about, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, how was I going to pay the bills, or HR or accounting or all those different things, I would start to lower my vibration and become less effective. And so as long as I stick to just doing the next right thing, and that's just all I can do, man, it changes everything.
Oh, I love that. That's the first thing that's ever come out with that question. So thank you for that. It's incredible. So Bryan, where's your watering hole online? Where do you hang out the most other than your website? Like, is it LinkedIn? Is it Instagram? I mean, I'm sure it's gonna be Instagram now that you're in Lisbon. You're taking pictures like crazy, but
I'm trying not to, because I'm trying to be present in what I'm doing. And so I'm trying to be less on social than more. Social doesn't drive my business, and I changed that a couple years ago so that I was relationships drove my business, and so I'm off social unless I want to be, which I still am. Ironic for a guy who wrote a book on social media, and so. But to answer your question, Instagram is definitely my favorite because I was a photographer in a past life, and I love photography. And so that helps. I love that for the storytelling and for the connection through visual. I would say that Facebook is probably good for personal for me. I do enjoy it. I don't enjoy some of the other political, whatever, but I do still engage on Facebook personally with what's going on, and then LinkedIn for sure for business.
You can't not be on LinkedIn. And they kind of cornered that market. And of course, it's Bryan Kramer with a K and a Y. Well, it's Bryan with a Y and Kramer with a K. I mean, you really mixed it up there. But .com, so people can go check you out over there. And Bryan, this has been such a thrill. It's been fun watching your TED Talk. And we've known of each other for a while, so this has been fun.
It has been. I know it's always good to be able to rap with somebody you've gotten to know digitally over time and actually get to spend some quality time. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
And go have some fun in Lisbon. I'm so jealous.
I will. And I'll take some pictures too.
Take some pictures, absolutely. And guess what? We'll see everyone next time. That was a great show. If you're enjoying Entrepreneurs Enigma, please review us in the podcast directory of your choice. Every review helps other podcast listeners find our show. If you're looking for other podcasts in the marketing space, look no further than the Marketing Podcast Network at marketingpodcasts.net. Goldstein Media hopes you have enjoyed this episode.